From genius ways people made tricky jobs easy as pie, to the certified method of winning the lottery, alongside the smartest way to avoid bike theft and some hilarious corner-cutting school kids, let's check out some absolute geniuses who beat the system. The world can be a scary place, but there are few things more terrifying than Swifties. AKA Taylor Swift's raging army of the hormonal and heartbroken. Entranced by the singer's C major chords and incessant whining, Swifties will do just about anything to see Taylor live in concert. Which is why back in 2023, one woman called in sick at work so that she could attend the Eras Tour in Ohio. Only the malingerer was soon stopped in her tracks when she was approached by a TV news crew forcing her to come up with a disguise so as not to have her bunking off broadcast live. Concealed beneath a pink fluffy blanket adorned with some shades, the hilarious disguise did just the trick, even if it was reminiscent of Cousin Ed from the Addams Family. An expertly executed beating of the system, if I do say so myself. But speaking of concerts, live music and booze often go hand in hand. Trouble is, most venues and festivals prohibit gig-goers from bringing in excessive amounts of their own alcohol, if any at all. And well, if you've seen previous episodes of this series, you'll know that people have come up with some pretty hilarious and unique ways to smuggle in their contraband. Looking at you, Bread Booze! However, this next woman thought up something so devious that it might actually work. She simply cut open the top of a juice pouch and tippled in some vodka, creating a delicious vodka orange.
Yeah, boy.
And with that, she seamlessly resealed the pouch using the heat from her hair straighteners. I mean, can we have a round of applause for that? Chin chin! I remember being a high school senior and wanting to get drunk for the first time. Where the hell did you find that? Anyway, my point is, getting served alcohol underage can be difficult, but not when you're an expert genius like this next guy, or rather lady. Yep, stealing his mom's ID badge and clothes, it was so crazy that it actually worked. What's more, any embarrassment he might have felt while doing it undoubtedly paled in comparison to whatever antics he and his pals inevitably got up to after downing the booze later that night. Speaking of boozy treats, this right here is a rum bar, a favorite rum-flavored chocolate bar of Romanians everywhere, iconically wrapped in their flag. However, back in 2011, national pride was at a low in Romania, and for a chocolate bar branded in patriotism, it wasn't great for sales. Rom needed a marketing campaign that would get the people of Romania back on side, and it turns out that reverse psychology can be a very powerful thing. Much to the complete horror of Romanians, the company completely rebranded itself in the American flag. After all, so many Romanians were immigrating there. They even released posters with phrases like, "Let's build America here."
Nice and clean.
What became of this bold publicity stunt would be nationwide upset and even protests to reinstate their beloved flag on the chocolate bar. As a result, McCann Erickson, the ad agency responsible for the campaign, reported that the campaign had generated over 300,000 euros in free media coverage from news and social media. More significantly, Rom's sales increased by 79% as people rushed to buy a piece of history in the controversial USA bar. After 7 days of the Romanian public being largely unable to purchase the regular version of the snack, the classic flag version returned to stores and more advertising was unveiled, letting the public in on the joke. Amazingly, as a result of all this, Rom re-established itself as Romania's most popular chocolate bar. And well, I think it's fair to say that Rom certainly beat the system. Through some very clever marketing indeed. Moving on, and if you want to be thinner without the trouble of going to the gym and giving up the Rom bars and Crunchwrap Supremes, then this dress might be for you. Thanks to the dress's leading vertical lines, which emphasize an hourglass figure shape when pulled in by the belt, it creates the illusion of a teeny tiny waist. Pretty mind-blowing, huh? Now, of course, products such as this can perpetuate unrealistic body ideals, but for the sake of this video, I'm calling it a win. But while we're talking about unrealistic body standards, this man put his tiny hands to good use as he attempted to make his catch look much, much bigger by comparison. And well, tiny fake hands aside, if you consider how big his fingers appear, you can realize how effective this forced perspective actually is in making his little guy look huge. Now, if you were anything like me, you probably spent your school days trying to covertly use your phone under the desk during class. Hey, I said get rid of that picture. Anyway, the only problem is hands under the desk can be a total giveaway, which is why this mastermind student came up with the brilliant idea of positioning a decoy arm. Looking like he was hard at work studying away, he was able to effortlessly tick away, or whatever it is the youth of today do. Either that or he really is just a mutant sporting a third arm, in which case you should see a doctor about that, or maybe Professor X. Sticking with the classroom antics though, and our next budding Einstein even went through the trouble of manufacturing their very own water bottle label brimming with notes and cheats for their upcoming test.
Nice.
I mean, sure, it's very clever and well executed, but I can't help but think they might not need to cheat had they invested half the time it took to make this into actually studying. Ha! Who am I kidding? This guy's a genius. But on the subject of deceitful design used to beat the system, when one graphic designer was scammed, she put her design prowess to good use and scammed the scammers back. It was 2023 and Melissa Love, another out and proud Swiftie from the UK, was desperate to see Taylor at her Eras tour. But unfortunately, having failed to get tickets before they sold out, Melissa turned to resellers. It was then that she found a seller on Facebook Marketplace by the name of Dave Shepard who was selling 4 tickets for £680, about $865. Melissa snatched up the offer, paid the man online, and excitedly awaited for her tickets through email. But alas, they never came, and with every passing day it became more clear that she'd been scammed. But Melissa wasn't about to give up so easily. Determined to get her money back, Melissa used her graphic design skills to forge extremely convincing fraud prevention documents from her bank. And having sent them to the fraudster and explained that he was being tracked via his IP address, Melissa spooked him so much that she had her money back in no time. Not the smartest fraudster in the world. It was a rather swift transaction, if you will. Though still ticketless, Melissa at least recovered her money, which she can now spend on my official Be Amazed merch store. From chic apparel to little versions of me, what more could you want? And while I shamelessly indulge, might I suggest you take those posable thumbs that evolution worked so hard for and put them to good use by liking, subscribing, and leaving me a comment. Aw, thanks guys. Appreciate ya. Back to the video now, and perhaps one of the biggest ways to beat the system is to figure out how to win the lottery. And as shocking as it sounds, some genius won the lottery not once, not twice, but 14 times, and all because of his mastermind method. Stefan Mandel is a Romanian-Australian economist who back in the late 80s found a loophole in the lottery. He began by calculating the total number of possible combinations. In this case, it was a lottery with 6 numbers from 1 to 40, meaning there were a total of 3,838,380 combinations. Stefan would then find lotteries that have a jackpot 3 or more times greater than the possible number of combinations. Having laid the groundwork, he would then round up thousands of investors in aid of funding the purchase of over 3 million tickets to find the winning one. And with the prize in hand, the investors would get their return, leaving Stefan with a small cut of the fund, yet still a sizable amount of money. In one instance, Stefan won $3.1 million, but pocketed only $97,000 of it. Still a tidy sum indeed. But before you get caught up in any daydreams of swindling the lottery, it would technically be impossible now, as it's no longer legal in the US and Australia to buy tickets in bulk and print them at home, a large component to Stefan's scheme. Nevertheless, Stefan successfully pulled off the impossible dream that we all have, and for that, good sir, I take my hat off to you. Someone give this man a Nobel Prize. But grand heists aside, coming up is a little mini heist you can try next time you're at a hotel. Julia Alexis isn't just a TikToker, but an evil mastermind who knows just how to beat the system when it comes to hotels. You see, whenever she's staying at a hotel, Julia has her mom phone the hotel ahead of time, letting them know that it's a special occasion and how she'd be grateful if the staff could put together something special for her daughter's arrival. This family affair typically results in a hamper full of goodies and snacks, all completely free of charge. It always tastes even better when it's free. Unless it's my mom's cooking. That never tastes good. Though if you thought that was a devious swindle, just get a load of this next one. Vivian, too, is an ex-Wall Street trader and social media influencer in the world of finance, so it's fair to say she knows a thing or two about moolah. Though one of her most divisive takes is that between the years of 2016 to 18, she would often go on as many as 6 dates a week in order to get free food and ease the expense of groceries. Oh, Vivian, that is so you, Vivian. Crazy girl. Anyway, despite openly admitting to taking advantage of her dates for free food, Vivian made sure to clarify that her intention was, nonetheless, to find love. I have my doubts. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Was Vivian right to take advantage, or is she just a freeloader? Speaking of which, after the breakdown of her relationship, one woman faced a harsh reality: she would soon be left without access to her ex's Netflix account. Life can be so cruel sometimes. Heartbroken, the woman preemptively came up with a cunning idea to avert being banished from the account before her ex could remove her from it. That is, she rather cleverly changed her profile name to Settings along with a settings-style picture for her profile icon. Better yet, she actually managed to fly under the radar in plain sight for an impressive 2 months before her ex realized what was afoot, at which point I don't even think I'd be mad. Heck, even Netflix itself respected the effort. But the hustle only continues as these next two friends figured out exactly how to beat the system in order to get free dessert. Intrigued? Me too. And well, it's easy. Just propose. Yep, back in 2017, totally platonic pals Katie and Alex put on the performance of their lifetime as they staged a proposal in a restaurant. As onlookers and well-wishers congratulated the newly betrothed, the restaurant staff indulged them in free cake, chocolate mousse, and creme brulee. Hey, I'm not saying it's ethical, but when there's free dessert at stake, you gotta do what you gotta do. For more deceptive sweetness now, we all know that with children, even the simplest of tasks can be like climbing Everest. So when one dad couldn't get his toddler to take his cough syrup, he was forced to come up with a crafty idea. That is, he emptied a juice pouch, cut a hole at the bottom, and concealed within it a dose of the medicine. The little sucker guzzled it down entirely, none the wiser. I know, right? Such a devious father trying to heal his ill child. In another ingenious feat for teen parent, this next father quite literally gave his son the shirt off his back, to restrain him to the chair while he cooks. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. And it was that same sentiment that spurred on this father who was sick and tired of his 3 tots taunting one another in the back of the car. With his thinking cap firmly on, he cleverly assembled this game-changing setup whereby his 3 terrors could no longer see or touch one another. Now, I would congratulate him on his effort to beat the system, but I think we all know it's only a matter of time before they find an alternative way to cause chaos. My money's on the trio using the barriers themselves as weapons. One parent, however, who certainly got the last laugh was this one who had the brilliant idea of padlocking her son's Nintendo Switch controls, making it completely unusable. Well, perhaps he'll clean his room now. What I'm more concerned with, though, is the fact that this image was posted to Reddit by the son himself, leading me to imagine he's some 33-year-old unemployed overgrown teenager still living with his mom and getting grounded. And before anyone comments, I'm 31 actually, so no, it's not the same. On a similar, slightly more dignified note, back in 2012, a 20-year-old by the name of Eric Simmons was unemployed and sofa surfing between his friends' houses. But that didn't matter, as Eric had a dream of starting his own company, one that would essentially provide an online hub for helping teachers educate students in more engaging ways. In pursuit of his dream, he enrolled on a course hosted at the AOL campus in California aimed to train and financially assist software entrepreneurs. Eric completed the course, and as for his living situation, well, he planned to continue as he had been doing, sleeping on friends' couches. That was until he realized that his keycard to enter the AOL campus was still active. It was then that he came up with the absurd plan to quite literally move into the campus. After all, it had heaps of free food, drinks, showers, a gym, and even a laundromat. Impressively, penny-pinching Eric managed to fly under the radar, sleeping on an office couch in a tucked-away corner for 2 whole months. By day, he'd work for 12 or 14 hours in the office spaces building his business, and by night, he'd retreat to a secluded spot ready to rise early, hit the gym, shower, rinse, and repeat. That was until one fateful day when Eric awoke to the bellows of a yelling security guard. The jig was well and truly up, but what became of Eric? Well, he was spared of any punishment thanks to the generosity of AOL, who instead publicly praised his work ethic. And as for his career, well, he is now the CEO of a successful company called StackBlitz, a web-based app developer. Just goes to show that with some grit, determination, and a bit of illegal squatting, you can achieve anything. Though when it comes to career-related swindles, this next fellow almost pulled off the impossible. Allow me to explain. Back in 2021, ex-user Fur was fired from his job for reasons he didn't explain. Jobless, he was in touch with a recruiter who ironically just so happened to put him forward for the very job he'd just been fired from. Now, most people might find some humor in the irony and proceed to decline, but this guy, well, he decided to have some fun with it. Having successfully secured an in-person interview, the guy decided that he needed to take on a disguise. That being a white stick-on mustache. I mean, who knows? Perhaps it was his lack of facial hair that resulted in his dismissal. Donning this slapstick mustache, the guy somehow managed to get past reception and the hiring manager with no questions asked. As a matter of fact, the guy and his mustache made it all the way to the interview room where he was met with his old boss. At which point his ex-boss took one disapproving look at him and told him to, quote, "Get out of here." I think I'm starting to see why he was fired in the first place. A little rascal. Hard to say whether he truly beat the system, but he certainly got a good story out of it, and hilariously live tweeted the whole thing. I'm now just imagining a cartoonish scenario where an innocent white mustachioed man who looks just like the ex-employee is getting kicked out of the building, while the actual ex-employee fixes himself up with another disguise and goes back in for round 3. Moving on now, and in this economy it can be crucial to make the most of your hard-earned cash. And if this next story is anything to go by, then the Chinese could give the world a masterclass in this. You see, back in the 90s when Pizza Hut was first expanding its restaurants to China, the company attempted to rebrand itself as being high quality and healthy, and thus made a focal point of its fruit and salad bar. The only catch was diners were permitted just one plateful of salad. And to that, well, China said, "Hold my beer." What would become of Pizza Hut China would be an unofficial national competition to see who could stack the most salad on their singular plate, resulting in some impressively colossal, kind of gross-looking stacks of salad. Some people reportedly even went so far as to create bespoke mathematical equations and even published academic papers to calculate the structural integrity of their salad stacks. And sure, they certainly managed to beat the system, but the victory was short-lived. Heartbreakingly, Pizza Hut eventually took the salad bar away entirely after seeing these stacking exploits. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Anyone up for a cucumber slice? Speaking of getting the biggest bang for your buck, this next little guy is a mastermind in the making. When he was told that he could only get one donut, he did exactly that. That is, he ordered the biggest donut I think I have ever seen, not including my boss. So huge, in fact, it was literally bigger than his head. I mean, to be fair to the kid, the size of the donut was never specifically stated. I could see a bright career as a lawyer for this little one. Keeping things delicious, one of my favorite snacks has to be Pringles. From their intense flavor to their satisfyingly uniform shape, I'd say Pringles are a pretty top-tier chip. The only downside is that by the time you've scoffed down about half of the pack, it can be pretty challenging to get your hand down the tube, particularly when you have huge muscular arms like me. But fear not, as some Einstein came up with the genius idea of sliding a piece of paper into the tube so that you can allow the chips to simply pull out in one ready-to-eat mess-free. Talk about a game changer, right? But taking Pringle dining to the next level is YouTube legend Maddie from the YouTube channel Unnecessary Inventions, a channel literally dedicated to inventing completely pointless things. Maddie, using a 3D printer, created a perfectly shaped Pringles vacuum hose tip which allows you to suck up the Pringles without having to do acrobatics with your fingers.
I like this. This is cute. I want this inside of me.
Am I the only one who thinks that this is actually a totally necessary invention? Shut up and take my money! And on the technological topic, just get a load of this bike. What bike? Where? I'm sure you're wondering. Well, this clever bike is disguised as an electricity box. You see, in an attempt to prevent bike burglary, artist Joe Reuter designed this electric bike called the No-Moto that seamlessly blends in as a street electricity box. This way you can even leave your bike on the street totally incognito, avoiding bike thieves with bolt cutters who might crack your bike lock open by removing the need for a bike lock altogether. Now that's beating the system. Although, maybe we shouldn't be raising awareness of this invention, seeing as its success kinda depends on people not realizing it exists. Forget I said all that. I love the fall. Cozy nights inside, hot cocoa, stealing all the neighbors' Halloween candy. But if there's one thing that annoys me, then it has to be those darn leaves covering my entire yard. If you feel the same, then stay tuned as some clever clogs came up with a brilliant solution. That is by using his lawnmower to clean up the leaves. Simple, effective, and worked like a charm. In that same spirit of working smarter, not harder, when a team of construction workers needed to level out a concrete foundation, they came up with a pretty outside-the-box idea. Check it out. I mean, whatever gets the job done, right? Not so confident that OSHA would feel the same way, though. It truly is a mystery as to why women live longer than men. Sometimes, however, jobs can be very tedious, and no one knows this better than this one worker who was tasked with filling up hundreds of little ketchup cups. Most would endure the arduous monotony of filling them one by one, but not this guy. In a stroke of brilliance, he took a shortcut by piercing 4 holes in the lid of the ketchup, quite literally quadrupling his productivity. If there were a sauce-pouring Olympics, this guy would be taking home the gold. In yet another instance of someone working smarter, not harder, this grocery store employee was evidently tired of answering the same questions during the run-up to Thanksgiving, so he stuck the answers to his back. Ha! Talk about service with a smile. Likewise, this next person was living under a homeowners association and was told after 10 years of living there that their trash cans now had to be hidden from sight or else they'd be fined. Clearly not at all pleased with the decision, the homeowner responded with this. Yeah, that's what they think to your dumb HOA rules. Passive aggression at its finest. I love it. Similarly outsmarting the HOA, in one association, pride flags were forbidden. To defy these medieval rules, one homeowner used the power of electricity to get their point across. That is, they lit up their entire house in the colors of the rainbow pride flag, giving a special LGBTFU to the HOA. Wow, that must have been at least half of the alphabet. Sticking with the topic of flags, and back in 2022, unauthorized protests in Russia regarding the Ukrainian war were forbidden. But that didn't stop this cunning bunch who just so happened to be in the mood for some outdoor public painting, specifically in the colors of blue and yellow. I'm sorry, but this is obviously a painting of a field. I don't know what would make you think of a Ukrainian flag. Nothing to see here, officer, just some painters painting with the perfectly legal colors of blue and yellow. Well played, guys, well played. Something, however, that feels slightly less legal is this alleged parking meter hack that one person discovered. Using just a coin attached to a coffee stirrer, he figured out that he could repeatedly stick it in and out of the parking meter and gain free credit. Whether or not this actually works, well, you might just have to find that out for yourself. That said, if you ever do decide to take the risk of not paying for parking, a possible consequence could be having your wheel clamped and a fine. But when this happened to this next guy, he attempted to beat the system by simply replacing the clamped wheel and leaving it behind. Which might seem like a funny and clever way to avoid the hassle, but removing a wheel clamp is actually seen as a serious offense and can even result in potential jail time. Yeah, probably not advisable. Holding that thought of parking as a catastrophic flood struck, a group of masterminds had the brilliant idea of parking their cars on a nearby hill before the flood occurred, protecting their cars from any water damage. Talk about taking the intellectual high ground. Plus, with all the other cars washed away by the flood, it's a nice clear drive to the exit once the water dries up. And with that, that's all for me today. Let me know which genius impressed you the most and if you have ever successfully beat the system yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.